Hello all of you beautiful people, Jules here for WhatCulture.com. And you know what I've realised recently is that being locked inside for the better part of a year has taught me a few things. One, my neighbours get up to some really weird things when they think that I can't see through their window. Two, I definitely need to put on trousers when my girlfriend is having her webcam meetings. That one was definitely noted. And three, I've started to develop a real obsession with open world games. Jumping from rooftops and charging through open fields, feeling the wind in my beard. But then I realised that no, it's not that. It's actually because most open world games are so bloody big that it's a wonder that anyone actually completes all of them 100%. So today what I thought I'd do is pick one franchise from many that seems to be having problems with open world fatigue, and that is the Assassin's Creed franchise. Because I feel like, unfortunately, they are literally getting too big for their britches. So with this in mind, I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and this is Assassin's Creed, the Wasted Open World. In the industry lately, open world titles are everywhere. From The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild to Red Dead Redemption 2 to Metal Gear Solid 5 to No Man's Sky, each of these titles and so many more are filled to the brim with quests, side missions and activities. And while it's all well and good that there is a chunky amount of content for players to dive into, it might not be the best thing when it comes to game design. Think about it this way. If you have, say, 10 or 20 quests, then that small pool will allow you to make sure that each of them feels unique and to allow them to use the game's core mechanics in different ways. But the problem is that when you add more and more quests, you start to see that they become a bit similar. Even amazing games like Red Dead Redemption 2 have glass-shattering moments when you realize that a lot of the missions boil down to ride over here, shoot this guy in the face, ride back again. This is why so many open-world games include collectibles or side missions that require upkeep into the mix, because this breaks the linear chain of progression for the player. Now, it might not sound like a good thing to make the player ignore the main narrative, but trust me, it kind of is. You see, the player is distracted enough that they won't see the missions as being similar because they'll be too busy flitting from one activity to another. And if you give the player a few collectathons or long-form side missions at once, you give them a sense of agency in how they progress. And this agency, in turn, means that the player creates their own gameplay loop and that they can just go back to the main quest whenever they see fit. And that is really good. That's what most game developers want, for the player to feel invested and that the journey is made to feel like it's their own. And collectibles can be used in ingenious ways as well. Think about it like this. If you've got a massive map, you want the player to go and see everything, right? I mean, what if you've made this tiny but very detailed hut in the middle of a desert? How do you get them there? Well, you could use a mission, I guess, if you wanted to, or you could slap a collectible in there and then they go looking around specifically for those things, and thus they get to experience that amazing little hut. Now, this is all well and good on paper, but open worlds in their current form they've gone a bit mad with these concepts. If you look at most open world titles today, they are so crammed full with side missions, collectibles, and persistent activities that it's actually ridiculous. Now, if these activities are fun and the collectibles rewarding, then yes, you've still got a good chance of players wanting to complete them all. But for some games, well, that's simply not the case. Chucking a buttload of things to do in a game does not mean that it's going to be conducive to a decent gaming experience. I mean, hell, just having stuff to do doesn't mean it's fun. I've got to take 20 bags of soil to a skip later on. You don't see me being very enthused about the subject. And yet, this is exactly the principle that is being sold back to me by these list of developers, and it's here that we begin to see Ubisoft and its approach to open world games, in the AC series especially, as being particularly stale. Now, these games are stuffed full of things to do, but in the recent titles they've taken on a very clinical form. In the early titles, you'd be running and jumping across rooftops and spy something off in the distance and be like, I wonder if that is a collectible. Oh look, it is. I get a sense of reward from that. But in later titles, Ubisoft has come along and just decided, no, you're not an explorer, you're actually just a bloke who wants to tick a checkbox because I've put all of the collectibles down here for you on the map, so there's no sense of exploration whatsoever. Cheers. And this is actually a problem that is created by these titles being sequels, as each has locked itself into promising bigger and more expansive worlds than the last, which in turn means that more collectibles and items are needed to pad out the areas to get players to come and visit them. Now, in other open world games like GTA 5, Rockstar had the foresight to turn its side missions and activities into rich and rewarding ones. I mean, hell, the street racing distraction is more fleshed out than many standalone racing games. But Assassin's Creed still seems to be missing the trick with this one, and even when it does have an interesting idea for an activity, it never feels like it truly rewards the player at the end of things. I mean, just look at Odyssey for a litany of examples where player time and investment simply wasn't rewarded, and it leaves us in a worrying state when it comes to Assassin's Creed Valhalla, because they're going to make the game even bigger. This latest installment will present a uniquely Assassin's Creed take on the Vikings' assault on Britain, set in the year 873 AD. While Viking warriors, as history tells it, weren't exactly known for their subtle combat approach or stealthy assassinations, which is already worrying, there's something far more concerning about the game from a logistical point of view. Just how big is this map going to be, and how much are we going to be expected to do? Well, the devs seem intent on delivering an absolute monster of a playground this time around, as this statement from July proves. I would actually say in terms of range, Valhalla is probably a bit larger than Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I do not have the exact figures at this stage, but we have not only created the whole country, which in this case is England, but also a good part of Norway too. It's entirely understandable that open worlds will naturally grow and evolve as the industry itself does, but just remember that open can also mean empty, and if the size of this game is anything to be believed, then my god, it's going to need to be full of things to do to keep players exploring, which of course, as I've just mentioned, comes with its own problems. It all boils down to an obvious fact and a rather juvenile joke in waiting that size doesn't actually matter. You could give the player a massive expanse, but if all that you're allowing them to do in between point A and B is collect goddamn 900 Korok seeds, then yeah, you might annoy people a little bit and they'll just switch off and not complete the activity, thus rendering not only the activity that you've implemented useless, but also the large stretches of land that you've created as well completely null and void. Quality will always trump quantity, and the best side quests in open world games are satisfying, and they're pretty much mini campaigns in their own right that reward the player for taking the time to complete them or offer access to entirely new areas or mechanics. The worst ones, meanwhile, well, they reduce what their games actually are. And yes, you will find that there will be completionists out there, yes, I'm talking to you, Gerard, that will actually go to insane lengths to get everything, to see everything. If it's not fun, I have to ask the question, what's the point and why are we putting up with this? This is the problem. If open worlds continue to get bigger and bigger but have less and less variety or interesting things to do, well, I might just leave them entirely and go outside. And no one wants that, right? And there we go, my friends. That was Assassin's Creed: The Wasted Open World. I hope that you enjoyed that, and please let me know what you thought about it down in the comments section below. Would you like to see more editorial style little chats back and forth like this? Because I would love to do more of them, my friends. Let me know down below. As always, I've been Jules. You can go follow me at RetroJ with a 0 over on Twitter, or you can go to Live and Let Dice. It's my personal gaming channel where I stream every single Wednesday and Sunday. But before I go, my friends, I just want to say one thing. I detailed at the very beginning that we've been locked inside, and it looks like we're going to be in for a cruel, cold, groundhog-style winter, but nevertheless, do not forget to treat yourself with love and respect, because you bloody deserve this. Even though things are closing in, do not let your heart close in on matters that are important to you. Make sure your friends know that they're loved. Make sure you're speaking to people if you have problems, because they will help you live a healthier and happier life in the long run. Big love from me to you, my friend. You are a massive ledge. Now go out there, or as the case may be in this time, stay in and absolutely smash it. As always, I've been Jules, you've been awesome, and I'll speak to you soon. Peace.